Hello everyone, I'm Greg, and welcome back to another preview matchup between the Shadow Thief and the Paladin. So last time was the Barbarian versus the Moon Elf. This time we're going to be talking about the matchup between these two heroes. So we will start with the Shadow Thief first, and I'll throw his board right here. And what's always important about Shadow Thief is the longer it goes, the game-wise, the more powerful he'll become because he can build more CP. CP is his main way to hit hard. So we have a small straight, gain 3 CP, then deal half as damage, rounding up. And then large straight, insidious strike, gain 4 CP, then deal that CP as damage. So the more CP that you have, the better off that you are. For effects, Shadow Thief has 3 for status effects. The first one is Shadows, which is probably his best defense out there and probably one of the best in the game. Shadows, when a player with this token is damaged as a result of an opponent's offensive roll phase, no damage is received and no defense is made. Although the attack still succeeds and other effects may still apply, discard this token after the affected player starts and concludes a single turn while under its effect. So, if the Shadow Thief rolls for Shadow Defense and gets Shadows on it, they get the Shadow token on the playboard, and then no damage is affected to him because it's an offensive roll, because he'd be rolling the defense. And then he has Shadows throughout his entire turn as well, because it says discard it after you have started and concluded a single turn under its effect. And there are some cards like Wild Shadows, I believe, and other cards that affect and do more damage or do more effects if you are under Shadows. The likelihood of rolling of certain dice is a little more narrower. We have 1 and 2 for daggers, 3 and 4 for bags, 5 for cards, and 6 for shadows. So it's a little more narrower. It's not as likelihood to get something as such as Moon Elf and Barbarian, but you can find that you can still get what you need pretty easily. For the different abilities here, I'll show you right here of the different attacks that they have, or Shadow Thief has. And what's interesting and unique about Shadow Thief is that he has 2 defenses. So when you roll for defense, you have to declare what you're going to use as the defense, either the Shadow defense or Counter Strike before you roll. Very important to do that. That way the opponent knows what you're trying to do. There are some upgrades that I think I want to talk about that are very important going into this matchup against the Paladin. The first one here is Shifty Strike, which is a small straight, and then also adds another attack here, Shadow Strike. Deal half CP as damage, and then also inflict poison. So if you already have high enough CP, you don't really need to gain 4, but maybe you can do that instead and inflict poison. And it's only a cost of 2 CP. Then for the large straight, adds another attack here, 1 of each. Gain 1 CP, draw 1 card, inflict poison, and also gain sneak attack. So there may be a time when you need to draw more cards, inflict another poison, or what have you, and you don't need a lot of CP. That may be a way to go. And then for defenses, Shadow Defense, the big thing here is that you get to roll 5 dice instead of 4. And then that is honestly the biggest thing. The difference is rolling 5 dice instead of 4. So that is very important for Shadow Defense. And then Counter Strike 2, instead of dealing 1 damage for each dagger, you get to deal 2 damage for each daggers. So overall, those are the 4 important upgrades I would suggest the Shadow Thief have versus the Paladin. And as long as the Shadow Thief can build up a lot of CP quickly, can take CP away from the Paladin, because he will be able to get it back, but taking it away when he needs it is very important because he has a lot of expensive upgrades to do. Poisoning him as soon as possible, keep the damage on, going, and staying in the shadows. So as long as he can stay in the shadows, he will be alright. The key issue will be staying in there and rolling shadow defenses as much as possible. So that is the Shadow Thief. So now we have the Paladin. And Paladin is actually a favorite of mine. I find that I do pretty well with Paladin overall. So what we have here is he has quite a few more status effects. So Blessing of Divinity, the next time a player or team affected by this token would have their health reduced to 0, remove this token and set their health to 1 instead. This token may not be removed, transferred, or stolen by any other means. So it's pretty much a bring back to life for 1 more attack, is pretty much what it is. Retribution. This token may be spent after being attacked as a result of an opponent's offensive roll phase to deal half of the incoming damage rounded up back to the attacker. That is very important. Then we have crit. If a player with this token is dealing at least 5 damage as a result of their offensive roll phase, this token may be spent to add +4 damage. This effect cannot be applied to collateral damage. Then we have protect. A player with this token may spend it at any time to reduce incoming damage by half, rounded up. And then we have accuracy. A player with this token may spend it at the conclusion of their offensive roll phase to make their attack undefendable. And it's important to note that none of these stack, so it's just one status effect per character that they can have on it. And this is his attacks and player board. So we see here he has a passive ability that can be used at any time. You just have to add the CP for it. Righteous Combat is always a good one to get. Resolute of Fate, that is how he will get Blessing of Divinity. And then we have Holy Attack and a large straight. Righteous Prayer there. Important to note, he gets to roll only 3 dice for defense. And also here, on sword, deal 1 damage. So if he rolls 1 sword or 4 swords, on a sword he gets to deal 1 damage. And then Holy Light. So the most important thing for the Paladin going into this battle against the Shadow Thief is doing undefendable damage. The reason why you want to do undefendable damage is because undefendable means the Shadow Thief cannot have a defensive roll. So it limits the time he can use Shadow Defense. So what I like to do, because my wife will play Shadow Thief, I will play the Paladin, is I will roll for either Retaliate or Mighty Prayer first. Doesn't matter which, that is what I'm rolling for. I'm rolling for either of these to get either Retribution, to make her think that if she's going to attack big on me, she's going to take half of it. Or do Mighty Prayer, do 3 undefendable damage, and then gain crit and accuracy. So when I have crit and accuracy, then I'll try to hit hard with either small straight or large straight, Righteous Prayer, what have you, that's not doing undefendable damage, and make it undefendable with accuracy, and then adding crit on top of it for a +4. And then when I spend them, I do the cycle all over again. I go for the crit and accuracy, and I go for Retribution. And you do that combination over and over again. We actually had a preview matchup fight last night, and that is what worked, is doing those 2 things during the entire battle. It was a 50 health point battle, and she was able to roll Shadow Defense 1 time because I did not attack with crit and accuracy. So having that, doing undefendable damage, even if it's 3 or 2, does not matter. It's better than making the Shadow Thief go into shadows. So what I would consider the most important upgrades for this battle, there's actually quite a few of them here. We have Tithe 2. And the reason why I do this one is because whenever you successfully activate an ability during the offensive roll phase that utilizes at least one prayer, gain 1 CP. And that CP is crucial in helping you have enough to upgrade these other ones. And Mighty Prayer requires a prayer, Retaliate requires a prayer. And then also Define Defense, you can get another CP on top of it. Or no, I'm sorry, it's offensive roll phase only. Or Righteous Prayer, what have you. So and those are what I use a lot. So that's going to be in my favor. And then we have Retaliate. So Requital, that's what I used a lot. Heal 1 damage, or heal 1, deal 3 undefendable damage, and then gain Retribution. So if I don't want to gain the CP, I may try to go for this Requital. And it's one of each icon. So that'll go right there, and that's worth 2 CP, so that's reasonable. And then we have Righteous Prayer. So deal 8 undefendable damage, then gain crit and plus 2 CP, which is great. Instead of just dealing 8 damage, it's now undefendable. And then Prosperity, gain 4 CP. And then we have Righteous Combat. Steadfast here, just another heal 2, deal 2, undefendable. And then you get to roll 3 dice instead of 2. Then we have Mighty Prayer 2. And deal 4 undefendable, then gain crit and accuracy, and then also offensive stain, 2 undefendable, gain crit or accuracy. So if you're trying to go for that, can't get it, you may be able to get offensive stance. And then lastly, Define Defense 3 allows you to roll 4 dice and also gives you Protect on 2 helmets and a prayer. So those what I don't consider for this matchup, Holy Light or the smaller large streaks to be the most crucial ones. Because like I said before, the most important thing is dealing undefendable damage. So that 2 cycle right there, with the help of another die for rolling and also gain Protect, and then dishing out a lot of damage with Righteous Combat. That is the big thing. And then also for ability to roll certain dice, we have 2 swords for 1 and 2, helmets for 3 and 4, life for 5, and prayer for 6. So about the same for Shadow Thief in terms of what's able to be rolled. And that is it for the Paladin. So the big thing is for Paladin is not to let Shadow Thief go into Shadows, build up a lot of CP, because I believe this is about 17 CP for upgrades compared to 11 for this Shadow Thief. So that is it for our preview matchup for the Paladin versus this Shadow Thief. Thank you.